So I've added the password, and now I have two connections. They're pointing to the same database, but one is using the entity framework syntax, and the other is just using plain old vanilla ADO.NET, actually, where we just specified.
I still don't know why it broke.
So then you'll notice in the tutorial, they've called theirs default connection. So that's a keyword. That's what the identity package is looking for.
Would it be logical to use that? Better just to conform?
The bug.
It would be better to just keep that, because otherwise you have to reconfigure. You have to do some extra configuration.
What it says is assembly Microsoft ASP.NET identity in the framework as a higher version referenced assembly than the entity framework.
Does it give you an option to correct it?
It takes me out to Microsoft ASP.NET entity framework.dll.
I'll have to come and look at it.
Did you take anything out of your register page?
Nope. So the package has support for validation. So for example, by default, one of the things it's going to do, so it's got a property that we can set about only allowing alphanumeric usernames, which default is set to true. It also has a minimum length validator. So again, by default, it won't allow passwords less than 6 characters. That stuff's built in. Those are the defaults. You can override those if you want to. So that's on the user manager class, if you want to add your own custom validation rules. Now the other package, the other thing, we need to now install this OWIN middleware. We can do registration as we've set it up, but we won't be able to log anybody in. So we'll go back to our project and back to manage the NuGet packages. And this time if you search for identity.owin, we want to install this first version. So this is middleware. It requires, you can see on the right, it depends on the identity core. We've already installed that. It also has 3 support libraries: owin.security, owin.cookies, and owin.oauth. So this will install all of these. So just click install beside the first item in the list here, and it will install these 4 packages. Actually, it will install, 5 packages. And Visual Studio will give you an indicator when that's done. It doesn't take long. So that's added now about another 9 megs worth of support files. My project went from 32 megs to 41 megs. So once that's done, you can close the package manager.
It was the second one, right? Search identity. It was the one.
Yeah, when you search identity, it was the second one. So we could have installed it when we installed the others. I'm just sort of going through in the same order that they're laying it out. So let's try our register page and see what happens. We won't be able to log in yet, but we can try the registration. Okay, so I'm just going to compile my solution. So I'm going to go to my register page. Because it is missing a section declaration. Whoops. I think I accidentally removed my closing. Yeah. Oops. I accidentally removed my closing connection strings. Oh, hang on. No, yeah.
Okay.
So this section has to be inside of my connection strings tab. So the first thing I'm going to do is just click register and try and leave the form blank. So when I do that, it actually tells me I need a 6-character password. In fact, I'm going to add something. If we get an error, I want to use a different class. I want the class to be label danger, so the background's red. So if I go back into my code, if result succeeded is false, not only are we going to print the error, but I'm going to change the CSS class to label danger. Otherwise, the CSS class can be label info. So blue, if it's successful, actually maybe I don't want to make it blue. Maybe I want to make it green. Would probably be wise. There, success. So we use label danger. If there's an error, we'll use label success if it works properly. So let me try that again. Okay, so now we get red, which is good. So it will actually check the password, right? If I try and sign up with a 1-character password, it knows.
And that came with the package?
Yep.
6 characters?
Yep, that's the default in the user manager package. So now go ahead and try and create an account for yourself. My suggestion is we should all create an account with the same login. It would probably be a good idea. So as the weeks go on, if you forget your login, we actually know what it is.
So admin?
So let's use admin and password. We missed one thing in our connection string. It doesn't include the provider name, meaning we provided a connection string, but we didn't say what type of database it was. So in here, doesn't matter where in the tag it goes, we need the provider name equals system.data.sql client, because it's an SQL Server database. So we have to specify what type of database are we connecting to. So that attribute, I omitted the first time around, we need to have it in there. Now I can probably just refresh and it will resend my information if I click resend. So it tells me we were created successfully. It's green, no errors. It printed out the username here. Now, how do we know what actually happened? We better look. So if I go to Server Explorer and expand my connection and open up the tables, oh, look at that. That's pretty neat.
Oh, I didn't do it yet. Right.
So the identity package, when we create a user for the first time, if those tables don't exist, it actually builds them. So let's look at the users table. So by default, here are the fields. So email, whether the email is confirmed, well, we can actually look at the data. If I just right-click and choose Show Table Data. So I created another account before class. So here's my admin username. It uses a security stamp and a strongly hashed password. And even the IDs, those are the unique user IDs. So for your assignments, if you're tying data to a particular user, for example, a few of you are doing exercise logs where you'll have different users and each user can track their own exercise, you'll need to make sure in the exercise table or the workouts table that you use a string to store the user IDs because the values are not numeric. Okay? This will be your user ID value, that will be your foreign key. Any data that is tied to that particular user. So we've got that table. So our roles, we don't have any roles, we haven't set any up. So these tables are for doing authorization. So we can create roles and then we have a junction table where we can place one user in one role.
Would roles be kind of different levels?
Different levels. Right? We might have, for example, in an e-commerce site, which some of you are building, you might have administrators, customers, suppliers, for example. Okay. You can also do login auditing. It's not turned on by default, I don't think. So this would be, this would be if we've got third-party logins. Like we're going to authenticate through a social media provider, we're going to have to provide the key here. What's the user and what social media provider are they using, or what OAuth provider. So if we're doing basic authentication, we're really just using the users table, but the identity package builds out all of this stuff for us. So I'm going to try and sign up again. Let's see what happens now if I try and sign up again with that same. So now I'll sign up as admin 1. We'll see whether the package lets me create another account with that same username and a different password. So this functionality is already built in. If I run this through the debugger, we can kind of see step by step what's going on here. So I'll load admin. So we're creating a new store, uses entity framework, and a new instance of the manager class. So it tries to create a new user with the username of admin. And now we can evaluate our result. So result comes back as false. And we get one error back, which tells us that it's already taken. So we don't have to manually check for duplicate users. The identity package is going to do it for us. So they were smart enough when they built this, and they've evolved it over time, to build in the normal types of rules most applications would want. Yep, so we could have multiple errors, but this will display the first error in the collection is what you'll see.
So if it was the username one, and then some other one, username.
Yeah, so if you wanted to change that, what you'd have to do is you would have to iterate through, right? You need a loop, and you need to loop through for each error in result.errors, and then you would build a string that way, and then you could output it. So this is a simplified version. It's just going to show the first one.
Generally, there's always.
Well, I suppose, well, let's say we did this, right? I guess if we did it this way, if I used admin, I have to start it again. Let's say I used admin, but I also used less than 6 characters for the password,
Yeah, that's.
right? We're going to have 2 errors in that case. So we're probably going to get only the first error that the username already exists. Oh, okay. I guess it checks the password first. That's the first error in the collection. Okay, but we don't see that the username already exists. So we could use a loop here instead if you wanted to print out all of the errors.
Scroll up on that code. Okay, yeah, that does actually make sense, yeah. Because you're not actually passing the username until you're also passing the password and stuff.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, I find this strange because it tries to create the user first, but it doesn't give us a result until we call create with the password. Okay, so I guess that's how it's running. Okay. So if we go ahead, let's create a second account. Just want to make sure it's not going to try to rebuild the tables and wipe out what we've already got. So I'll put in admin2 and password2.
What would it?
So it says created successfully. And now if we just check our table data, so now I've got admin and admin2. So totally different security stamps, hashed passwords, excuse me, and IDs. So if we wanted to add additional fields, let's say you want users to also have to sign up with an email address or with a phone number. The way we would do this before we call create, we could just set those values here. If we had an email box, we could set the email value. So when we're calling create, it would pass in whatever properties we've already set on the user object plus the password.
And then you would just validate the front end that it's actually validated.
Yep. You could just use a type equals email, for example. So if you wanted things like email and phone number, you would just create those and populate that user object before you called create. And then it would include any properties of your user object. And the package would automatically map to email, phone number, for example. Okay. Are there any questions so far?
The only question I had was just when you right-click over your Server Explorer connection,
Yep.
List of things.
Yep.
I just get like copy, refresh, and properties. Is that something enabled or is it automatic?
So you can't expand?
No. So when you right-click over ASP.NET users,
Yep.
you get and then you went to show table data.
Yep.
I just get like copy, refresh, and properties.
So you don't have show table data? Okay. If you don't see it through here, you can open open Management Studio and connect your database that way.
Okay.
It should show you your table. You can check that way and make sure your tables are there.
Okay.
Okay, show the table data.
Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a pause here. So we've now created accounts. When we come back, we need to look at how do we use OWIN to authenticate and log users in. And then when we can log users in, how are we going to set access control within the application? Brandon, question?
Yeah, I just need some help with this while we're breaking.
Okay.
Yeah, same.
Okay.